thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Thursday, January 8th. And you know what today is, you guys? It's National Career Coach Day.
Hey, now.
I wonder if that's because Tim Walz is resigning today.
I came to be coached, so I hope you're ready to do some coaching.
Hey, bro, I'm a life coach. I'm about this life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, telling you, Stone. Watch out.
Watching.
Yes.
I'm watching.
It's also National Winter Skin Relief Day. I trust me. I know, Dale. I know. It's National Winter Skin Relief Day. And you know what they had a picture of on this?
Scabby elbow or what?
Lotion.
Lotion?
Lotion, yep. Yep.
P. Diddy freak off lotion?
Exactly my thoughts, Dale. It was just like a Diddy party.
Oh, no.
You took the words out of my mouth, Dale. You took the words out of my mouth, buddy. So true. So true. It's really crazy. Very, very crazy, bro. Well, it's also National JoyGerm Day.
What?
JoyGerm Day.
JoyGerm Day.
I trust me. I'm with you. I'm with you, Stone. I was like, what the freaking hell is this?
Like somebody looked that
Joy or Joey? Joey Germ or
JoyGerm. Joy germ. All one word.
Oh my God.
Is that?
Yeah. I never studied that when I studied bacteriology. I don't know what the hell it is.
Yeah, it's weird. It's definitely weird.
Yeah. You're like a bluey or soy.
It's someone
or
who spreads positivity, kindness, and laughter. Welcome to JoyGerm Day.
Is that really what it says?
It is.
It is. Okay. Interesting. So that I must be a JoyGerm then.
Such a JoyGerm.
Yeah,
You're the JoyGermist for sure.
About you.
Hey, you know. Oh man, you guys. It's also it's also National Bubble Bath Day.
You guys bubble bath guys? I don't like sitting in my own stank.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of baths. I think it's kind of weird myself, but you know what I mean.
Like I have to take a shower after I take a bath, so I don't see the point.
Yeah.
Of that.
Well, maybe if you took a shower first and then took a bath, then you wouldn't be sitting in your own stink.
Yeah, I like that.
You know what I'm saying?
I've been doing it backwards all my life.
I mean, we all know, Stone. You live in Austin. They do a lot of things backwards over there.
Oh boy. Must be the surroundings.
Oh man, it is. Well, no, it's the surroundings of Austin, not the surroundings in overall of Texas. Though that's cute. I see what you tried to do there. Stone, oh, you're gonna love this. This is totally for you, Stone. It's National Argyle Day. Do you have your Argyle socks on?
Oh, do not. I don't think I own any Argyle socks.
Dude, you are missing out.
Believe it or not,
you're missing out on some comfort in life right there, Stone.
I've owned, but I don't think I currently own any. It's been a minute.
You don't currently.
Since you guys have all done this for longer than I have, are there any other clothing patterns that have their own day? Or is Argyle the only one on that list? Is there a
Gotta be
Paisley
Plaid
Day?
Come on, there's
Plaid
a Plaid
Day?
Day somewhere.
Well, there's
Paisley?
there's other things. There's other like different fabrics that have their own day. I do remember
You
that.
should see on Paisley Day.
Yeah.
Jason's full Paisley.
It's
Day.
on. It's the Easter Sunday is National Paisley Day.
Okay.
The bow tie on, right?
Yep. My little
Yeah, no. Sorry / not sorry I asked. Okay. I got my answer.
FAFO. You know what I'm saying?
Wanted to know.
100%.
FAFO, Nick. You know what time it is, Nate. Oh man, you guys. You know what? It's also, this is my favorite. I love this one. It's National English Toffee Day today.
I can get behind that one.
Yeah, that's one thing I like about the English is their toffee.
Make a mean toffee.
Yeah, they make a mean toffee. Yeah, exactly. And on that, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.high9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And man, I have some interesting stories for you guys today. Very, very timely, because an Indiana bill would reschedule cannabis and THC under a state law. You guys, look at that. It's all about part of the Make Cannabis Great Again. State Representative Jim Lucas, a Republican, filed legislation on today that, or it would have been yesterday, that would reclassify cannabis and tetrahydrocannabinol under state law, removing both from Schedule 1 and placing them into Schedule 3. Interesting, of the Indiana's Controlled Substances Framework. House Bill 1298 received its first reading on January 6th. Oh, a great day for patriots. When it was referred to the House Committee on Courts and Criminal Code. If enacted, the changes would take effect on July 1st, 2026. They should have made it July 4th, 2026, but it's all right. Under current Indiana law, marijuana and THC are classified as Schedule 1 substances, a category reserved for drugs deemed to have a high potential for abuse and no accepted medical use, and the bill would instead place both into Schedule 3, aligning them with substances recognized as having accepted medical use, but still subject to regulation. Beyond reclassification, the measure makes several confirming changes throughout Indiana statute to reflect the new scheduling status, and this includes updates to criminal provisions governing possession, dealing, and sentencing thresholds, as well as technical revisions to ensure marijuana and THC are treated consistently with other Schedule 3 substances. The bill also amends Indiana's operating while intoxicated statute, while the law would continue to prohibit driving with Schedule 1 or 2 substances in the bloodstream. The proposal explicitly creates a defense for drivers who test positive for marijuana metabolites but are not intoxicated, did not cause a traffic accident, and were identified through a chemical test. The legislation preserves existing penalties for impaired driving while narrowing automatic criminal exposure tied solely to the presence of THC. Look at that. Indiana remains one of the few states without a comprehensive medical marijuana program, and though lawmakers have repeatedly debated limited reforms in recent years, the bill's filing comes a day after the filing of bills that would decriminalize cannabis and create a regulatory system for craft hemp, you guys. Look at this. Indiana taking the lead on driving while high. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. This is the first common sense policy I have heard come out of any municipality when it comes to driving under the influence of cannabis.
Well, if it's supposed to be a public health and safety concern, and what's the public health and safety if they're not impaired?
Yeah.
So not being able to connect an impairment to some blood level, it just seems like scientifically that's supportable. The other side's not. So why not? I mean, wake up here. The blood levels tend to work with alcohol because there's a pretty straight connection. You don't smoke alcohol. You don't shoot alcohol. You don't stick it up your butt unless you're at a P. Diddy freak off.
Yeah.
But you use all those different ways to get cannabis into your body, and it comes through the liver differently than THC. So it's about time they recognize that. And a lot of this is that cops I don't want to say they're lazy, but they don't want to go do the whole 9 yards of a field sobriety test. They can do a blood test on you, and the blood tests just don't work. So it's about time you tell them, look, you got no choice. Do a field sobriety test. If they fail it, that's evidence for a jury. Otherwise, sit down and shut the
I heard that. I'm not.
Is this
mad.
moving the needle at all with the legality of cannabis in the state? Like, because I know they have currently no medical program. No, it's completely illegal there on all facets. So where does that leave the plant?
Well, so what I would say is that it basically it sets the stage for lesser penalties if caught with it. And I would imagine that would be the first step for them in being able to get something over the hurdle, because then a lot of the opposition wouldn't be able to say, oh, you know what, it's a Schedule I controlled substance under the federal government. It's a Schedule I controlled substance under our state constitution. So therefore, you know, I think it would make it a lot easier for them to be able to get over the hump and pass some type of meaningful legislation out there. Not to mention, you know what I really wonder, Stone? You know how Indiana had banned all advertising of hemp and cannabis just in general, you know, because there were people that were driving, you know, from out of state advertising their out of state businesses inside Indiana. I'm willing to bet that this would this would totally throw a wrench in that bill if this passed.
Yeah.
Why?
What other Schedule IIIs are advertised on billboards and things? Like
Ketamine's advertised on billboards everywhere.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
come to our ketamine clinic.
Almost every state in 1970, or in response to the Federal Controlled Substances Act, passed their own.
Yeah.
Almost the same. And pot got stuck in Schedule I and all of those.
Yeah.
They just jumped in line. And, you know, it's in California's Controlled Substances Act.
Mm-hmm.
After all the things we've done, you look it up and it's still there.
Yep.
It's like, why is this here?
Exactly.
So there's a lot of housekeeping that's got to be done, even at the federal level. If you make it Schedule III, if you get caught with 100 plants, you're still going to prison for 5 years.
Yeah.
Unless they change that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So think about that when I'm just going to go roll a bunch of pot. Well, you know, there's serious side effects to that.
Yeah, most definitely. Any thoughts on this, Nate?
A good point that you're making, to where it helps drive things in the right direction. Although I don't know if I would necessarily say that it will override certain, you know, laws that are possibly being put in and all of that fun stuff that are kind of restrictors to cannabis. This is a normalization effort. It's the opposite of marijuana bad. You know what I mean? Like that whole weird equation that if it has anything to do with cannabis, it ought to be automatically demonized. This is a subtle way, and hard for me to fully get behind and say, here's the right indicator of things going forward. But it does hit all the right marks for normalizing cannabis, understanding that people who are involved in it may or may not be impaired, rather than maybe other conclusions that could have been made, which is, well, I saw somebody hotboxing in your car, so therefore you must be high too. Yeah. And now we actually have something that is given another direction to that. So not all bad. It's all, any step towards normalization is good in my book, big or small.
I'm just really excited to see a state like Indiana take such strides in regards with some type of a common sense, so-called drugged driving policy. Like that to me is I think the biggest step forward that they're taking in this. You know what I mean? And so, congratulations, Indiana. And on that, we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back.
his voice.
Yeah, and we are back, you guys. We are back. But I'll try to make it up to you, Nate. I'll try to make it up to you. And with this bill, and I think Stone Slade, I think this bill was totally inspired by Hunter Biden, just so you know. Okay.
Oh,
all right. Because there's a Delaware bill that would decriminalize smoking cannabis in public, you guys. That's right. Smoking marijuana in public can lead to a criminal charge and up to 5 days in prison. And I just have to put a thing out there. That is total bullshit. Maybe 5 days in jail, but no one is going to prison for 5 days. That's total malarkey, right, Dale? All right. I see Dale is nodding his head. The proposal would make it a... What's that, Dale?
It's bovine scatology.
Yeah, exactly. It's total propaganda, and the proposal would make it a civil violation subject to a fine. When Delaware legalized cannabis nearly 2 years ago, lawmakers didn't extend that tolerance to smoking weed in public. Instead, they took they took pains to stress that getting high in public would remain a crime, and that meant no puffing in vehicles, stores, and restaurants, as well as on the streets and sidewalks in neighborhoods or towns. Anyone caught lighting up in those places can be arrested and charged with a misdemeanor. Penalties that include imprisonment of up to 5 days and a fine of up to $200. Ooh, big money. That prohibition hasn't stopped people from smoking joints in public, however. In a state that now has several cannabis retail stores, for example, someone walking down Market Street in downtown Wilmington can often detect the pungent odor of cannabis in the air, even though possessing up to an ounce of cannabis is now a legal right. Police still arrest people for imbibing outside of their home. Imbibing? I-M-B-I-B-B-I. What the hell is that, Dale?
Imbibing.
Oh, imbibing. All right, yeah. Imbibing outside of their home. And the only place it's permitted, State Representative Eric Morrison, a Democrat who represents the Bear area, said about 600 people were charged with public consumption in 2024. Morrison thinks that's too harsh of a punishment for someone to face for using a legal product, and albeit an intoxicating one, he has introduced a bill to decriminalize the act, making public consumption a civil violation subject to a fine of up to $50 for a first offense and up to $100 for subsequent violations. His bill does not prevent police from charging people for driving under the influence of cannabis, and Morrison said the proposal is a sensible one that still carries a legal consequence for a prohibited act. In a quote, "An important thing to note is that this is not sending a message that it's okay to consume cannabis in public. It's not," Morrison stressed. What it's doing is reducing the current penalty. And Morrison pointed out that several other states, including New Jersey, California, and Illinois, have adopted similar statutes that still ban public consumption but don't make it a crime. In a quote, "It doesn't make sense for folks smoking cannabis in public to have a criminal record for that," Morrison said. "Criminal records hurt people in terms of finding housing and finding jobs. That's not good for society." Morrison said he hopes the bill, which has been assigned to the House Health and Human Development Committee, will pass during the General Assembly sessions that begins next week. In a quote, "I'm really hopeful that folks will see this for the kind of common sense legislation that it is," Morrison said. The administration of Governor Matt Meyer is not taking a public position on the proposal at this time, said Mila Miles, the governor's spokesperson, and nor has Attorney General Kathy Jenkins, although her spokesperson Matt Marshall said in a statement that she, in quotes, "has been outspoken about keeping basic marijuana cases out of criminal justice system and focusing law enforcement's limited resources on keeping people safe." But State Senator David Lawson, a conservative Kent County Republican and former state trooper, thinks Morrison's measure sends the wrong signal and hopes it gets snuffed out by lawmakers. In a quote, he says, "The decriminalization of marijuana is our problem, number one, and now we're not going to abide by the rules that we made to make sure that people who don't want to smoke marijuana are now going to be subject to it," Lawson asked. "And what about our kids? What about all of that? Those who want to imble will be doing it out in the public and without regard for people who don't want to use it, and that's a problem. Lawson doubts the measure will clear the House committee and reach the House floor, and let alone make it to the Senate, even in a state where Democrats dominate both legislative chambers. He also suggested that Progressive Morrison is using the bill to feather his nest with the marijuana folks during an election year. In a quote, "I always look at what a judicated eye when people come up with these things," Lawson said. State Senator Eric Buxton of the Dover area of Kent County also has concerns, though not as stringent as those of fellow Republican Lawson. In a quote, he says, "My challenge is going to be protecting the rights of those that chose not to use marijuana and their right to have that would be described as clean air in public spaces," Buxton said. If violating the law is reduced to a civil infraction, Buxton said, then the fine system has to be a high enough threshold or a tiered approach that ensures that repeat offenders don't continue to be a problem. The public itself has the right to expect what they might perceive to be a smoke-free environment on public grounds, and I don't think that's unfair. Zoe Patchell of the Delaware Cannabis Advocacy Network noted that most of the 24 states that have legalized cannabis have decriminalized public consumption, and a few, such as New York, have no penalty for it. And that's a great example for these guys. In a quote, "What most people don't realize is that consuming cannabis in public is currently still an unclassified misdemeanor in Delaware, which results in an arrest, prosecution, and a criminal record," she said. And asked about Lawson's view that more parents and children will be exposed to marijuana smoke, Patchell stressed that under the bill, public consumption would still be prohibited. "It simply reduces the penalty," said Patchell, who likes the bill's chances of passage. "We're optimistic that the Delaware General Assembly will move Delaware's laws more in line with other states that have adult use laws." Well, I think that this bill is getting traction all because of the fact that they're not prosecuting Hunter Biden for smoking crack. So why not let the people smoke cannabis in public? And what do you guys have to say about that?
Logical fallacies, dude. Where you come up with that. But what you're seeing,
it makes sense to me,
that when you take 2 steps forward on this issue, find people that want you to take 3 steps back.
Mm-hmm.
And this is about control and a Karen wearing a badge.
Yeah.
Not being upset that you're not supposed to be doing this here, so I'm going to get all upset. Yeah, get upset. Give them a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, don't move them along. But I agree, you shouldn't be giving people criminal records for this. Give them a fine.
Dale,
take them to court. Let them be an idiot in front of a judge.
To the politician that wanted to stand on, I'm going to support the clean air and da-da-da-da. You know what? If that's the case, then you need to remove all the vehicles off the roads if you support the Clean Air Act. You need to stop all the jets from flying, all the commerce that America has going on. It's all pollution and all contributes to unclean air.
Well, back in the 80s, Dr. Taskin did a DEA-sponsored study that concluded smoking weed was safer than breathing the air in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Okay. They keep pulling us like, the children. We want clean air. Yeah. But when somebody farts walking past you, it's a lot worse than smelling somebody smoking some weed.
That's a lot of flatulence right there.
What are we really talking about here? It's that these people who are just pissed off that they can't control the narrative on cannabis just want to be like your parent. I told you not to do that. I'm going to just punish you as much as I can for doing what I told you not to do. Well, we're far beyond that now.
Steve Blessing. Now, you're right. Steve Blessingham in the chat, he says they're going to tell me I can't wear cologne pretty soon, too. Yeah, exactly that.
Some people should be told that. I'm just saying.
Well, I think those are the people that wear all that patchouli oil. I think that's the ones you're talking about. That's not necessary.
Don't get in the elevator with me with that shit on.
Yeah,
that makes my eyes.
I don't know, Nate. Have you ever done any studies on the lingering aroma of cannabis?
I have a fair amount of personal experience to weigh upon.
Okay.
Married with an understanding of the plant.
That's not because you are married, though, right?
What's that?
That's not because you are married, right?
I mean, all things are connected.
Okay, all right,
along.
fair enough.
The idea that you have so what actually creates that, a lot of that kind of sticking aroma has to do with the plant matter. Now, this is a pretty easy experiment that any of us who smoke concentrates and who smoke flower both have been able to kind of participate in. If it's a space that you only see concentrate smoked in, generally there's no lingering or sticking aroma.
Yeah.
If it has flower smoked in it, there is a lingering or sticking aroma. So we know right off the bat that the removal of the plant matter, which is essentially what happens through extraction, correct? Has this massive effect in terms of the dynamics of the smoke and how much it lingers and how long it's there and how much it permeates. Right away, you can start to break things down. Just even in your last story, we were talking about how things are being differentiated. That's a big idea and a factor in terms of if you did want to do a real life study of smoke and how we've all seen it, that's kind of how it's impacted, how it's affected. You can go a little bit further than that because there are certain aromas in smoke that people are more sensitive to than others. For instance, I see a lot of people who have certain strains that cause them to sneeze. Now, I've been able to nail this as the reason a couple of times, but not literally every time that it's brought up to me.
It's all that Jack
and it's
Herrera.
Because, what's that?
It's all that Jack Herrera.
It could be because Jack Herrera will have a fair amount of beta-caryophyllene. Beta-caryophyllene is a really interesting chemical because not only is it naturally occurring in cannabis, like 999 out of 1,000 samples tested will have it, So it's there 99.9% of the time. Not only is it there in cannabis, it's also the same chemical that the pepper plant, especially black pepper, synthesizes in order to make a peppery taste. And this is why there's some cannabis strains out there that are peppery as well, like Durban poison. You guys feel me?
Yep. I'm following. Cool. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Fun, right?
Yeah.
You can even go further and say that this crazy ass chemical beta-caryophyllene has these crazy connections to our endocannabinoid system. It confers an anti-inflammatory effect when it hits certain ends of our endocannabinoid system. And you can see this demonstrated through things like pepper rubs. So it's really crazy. Like these chemicals are all interconnected, but sometimes they make people sneeze too. And we can certainly understand that there can be limitations to how people want to practice what's available in public. Or I mean, hell, you could even have certain consumption practices that are available in certain places but not others, depending on the public being out there. But if I may kind of change the conversation too real quick, have you guys been to New York since it's been legal to smoke in the streets, generally speaking?
Well, I mean,
it's super normalized. Like there's nothing wrong with somebody walking down the street in New York smoking a joint. It's commonplace. It's just as normalized as somebody smoking a cigarette or somebody having body odor or any of those other things that other people are forced to smell. It's nothing. So
I have another question in regards with this study, because one thing that I have personally noticed is with raw cannabis flower, not with vapes or anything else like that, although I'm sure you'd have the same effect. But if you are smoking in high humidity level zones, right? So mainly like when I'm in Florida, I notice this a lot, is that the smell of cannabis does not travel as far as in like here on the West Coast. And so it immediately, like after I blow it out, it almost dissipates like instantly. And it doesn't like travel, 10 feet, 100 feet down the street.
Interestingly, there's numerous weather conditions that'll impact how far something like scent will travel. Extreme cold, like snap cold kind of, will absolutely do that too. It basically freezes something like smell being able to go more than a couple of feet.
Interesting.
So There are you bring up a very good point that I don't think has made it to any law, which is that there's simply different weather conditions. I mean, even that a certain area might be befallen to that can impact everything with how it should smell and how that smell should travel. So there's a lot more factors.
Laws. I mean, I had to deal with this recently trying to set up a mixed light facility, and we had to have nasal rangers out there make predictions ahead of time, and the number is 7 dilutions to threshold. And you may understand what this is, but any odor that reaches a certain level, they can then dissipate that down by diluting it a certain number of times. And that's how they figure out is it acceptable or not. These studies have been done, and honestly, they're bullshit. Okay, because what they don't differentiate what the odor is. It's just it detects an odor, and we got to dilute it so many times to get it to a point where people find it to be acceptable. Well, what is the odor? Because if it's a sewer plant, that's a whole lot different dilution threshold, or a chicken ranch, as opposed to some place where they make baby oil or something like that. And it's just very difficult to understand when, like you say, you've been into an elevator with some old cat lady that's got this shit poured on her head, and it about chokes you out, and you're wondering, okay, why is that okay, but somebody's smoking a joint because it smells like a skunk and I don't like it? Well, too fucking bad. I don't like the old man perfume you got on or whatever. You know? So what? At what point do we get to say you don't get to control the world? Just because it makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean you're right, or give you the right to tell somebody else they can't do something.
Dale, did you say
that's a bad road to go down?
Go ahead,
It's
Stone.
ridiculous too. These same places you can smoke cigarettes out in the open, which is way more foul and way more of a health concern. So it's hypocritical.
Dale, I have a question. Did you say nasal rangers?
Yeah, that's what they're called, a nasal ranger.
So here's the thing: does someone when do they say nasal rangers deploy?
You're watching too many video games.
I'm just saying.
Curious about. So I think Dale's, and I haven't studied this, but I think Dale's onto something, because quite literally, I've yet to be told about what types of chemicals would carry and be truly indicative of the overall smell of cannabis, because whatever the indicator is that's being utilized, I'm really thinking here, because there's very little you can do to eliminate, say, a certain chemical within a certain distance and how it's detected with cannabis. But I mean, we're talking about the combination of dozens to hundreds of chemicals that actually make it smell like that before it breaks into something that just honestly just kind of smells sort of normal and organic, almost like earth. When it spreads out, oxidizes, gets far enough away, which certainly these smell-causing chemicals are doing as they drift away from their various plants, factories, groweries, and what have you. So, I think it's something to be looked at. I'd like Dale to kind of go over some of the details that, might be involved that of with this, because it seems to me, I'd want more data before I can call BS, but it seems to me that it'd be very hard to achieve something like this with cannabis using instruments, which I could understand it being there for other simpler things. Every time we see somebody try to chemically oversimplify cannabis, it backfires. Case in point, the breathalyzers that were out there for cannabis. And it's been a pipe dream for 30 years now, and nobody's effectively released one. So,
well, the couple of the problems I pointed out to these idiotic policymakers is that if you're going to grow a field of hemp, which is basically the exact same plant with a little less THC, has the same odors, that's cool. You can do that. But if you grow marijuana under the legal industry, at the property line, it's got to be 7 DTs or less. And you think that's just stupid. And then I ask them, have you ever driven Interstate 5 North past the feed lot there where your eyes burn?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're telling me that there's 7 DTs there at the property line? Or you're not testing for cow shit. that seems to be okay. But the smell of marijuana, oh my God, hide the children, get the old ladies in the back and lock them up. No, it's nonsensical. And, I hate to make too much light of it, but this is part of the reason why people just hate the government. Because when you ask them to talk about something that's sensical and you can line it up in common sense, factually based, and they still pull 3 or 4 stupid rabbits out of their ass, like, at what point do you just stop talking to them? Because they don't understand the problem. They're just trying to play like your mom and dad. I don't do that very well.
Fair enough. And on that, we are going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He has represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. But he is blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet, they're nasty, and they probably will hurt his chest too. But he is honest, and he's unconcerned with your opinions, public opinions, and anyone else's opinions that wants to identify in any way's opinions. And he will show you how he can defy gravity by pissing up a rope. That's right, it is your favorite Tio Loco, and you can now find him at his own law office at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. It's Tio Loco and Jason's favorite full of shit.
Yeah.
My story this morning comes out of Marijuana Moment from yesterday, Kyle Yeager, and the headline was, "More Americans want to quit using alcohol and tobacco than marijuana in 2026. A New Year's resolution poll finds." Now, full disclosure and, to advocate for critical thinking, this was 1,003 people they asked. Demographics aren't really spelled out. And remember what Mark Twain said, "They're lies, damn lies, and statistics." So be careful about that. That being said, it seems like they randomly called 1,000 people and gave them a choice of things. What are you going to pledge to do or not do in 2026? And more people thought that they would slow down or give up drinking and smoking tobacco than giving up using weed. Okay. Now, I don't throw a lot of credence in that, aside from the fact that the alcohol industry is butthurt right now because people aren't drinking as much as they used to. We don't get stats on the tobacco industry. They kind of have gone silent. I suspect people are smoking less tobacco if they got weed to smoke or weed to use. So what this points out to me is that people are getting more comfortable with cannabis and talking about it. And I'd like to see bigger studies of this, because I think that what happened with hemp and what's happening with alcohol right now should be setting off alarm bells in government, flashing lights on their dashboard. Wake up, folks. People want to do this, and if you try to tell them no, they're going to ask you why. And every excuse I've heard so far is just absolute unmitigated horseshit. Okay? So I'm hopeful that we can continue to move the needle towards this being not normalized, not being thought of as, the opium dens in San Francisco or fentanyl or just stupid stuff like that. So I'm hopeful that that's what we're going to see. But as we have all seen here, this effort to get to Schedule 3, and Jason, you'll talk about this more with the Trump commercials, is that inside the beltways of drug bureaucracy in the United States, there's a lot of people looking to dig in their heels, drag their feet. They don't want this to happen. But I think the public out there is sending them a pretty clear message. Stop it. We want this. How long are you going to continue to treat us like we're children? That we don't have the right to do what we want to do in our own damn house and we're not hurting anybody. I'm going to throw this back at you guys, because I think this just is more formal information for the government that your games, people aren't playing your game anymore. So let's stop. Let's find another tune to play here. Back at you. What do you guys have to say?
You're exactly right, Dale. You're exactly right. The numbers just aren't there to support the prohibitionist rhetoric that we see on a daily basis come out of these politicians, mouths, so to say. I thought of a polite word to say instead of something else I was going to say. See what I did there?
Yeah, people are making harm reduction choices, and it's steering them away from alcohol. And this is bad news for only alcohol companies. And government wants to listen or not. This is what the people are. This is where we are today. So I'm happy. This is good news.
Blows me away that the alcohol companies haven't embraced this yet. Like, it's just such a normal transition. I mean, so for anybody involved on the supply chain side of cannabis, the cannabis supply chain was literally a carbon copied. I mean, I shouldn't say literally, figuratively carbon copied from the alcohol industry. That is how we figured out what to do. Is we said, well, these guys are moving this substance, this product that inebriates people. Let's try to match their supply chain as best as possible. So much so that there were numerous alcohol distributors that got right into cannabis just because they were already infrastructurally set up to do this. You remember this, guys?
Yeah.
Like, not a new story,
RVR,
right?
River, RVR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1,000%.
And what happened to them? What happened to them?
Top heavy AF, my friend.
Is that how you're going to describe it? That's cute. That's cute, Nate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could go on, but before we get into why did these 1,000-S companies fail? I mean, there were man, that's its own special that we should cover someday, dude. That's for sure it. For this article, the great news, but is anybody surprised? And harm reduction, like Stone said, free will, like Dale said, there's nothing wrong with what we just heard here. And it leads me wondering, my initial thought, why, if I was an alcohol company, having the opportunity to merge these two things, which, I mean, not everybody wants to crossfade, but let's be real. Some people are perfectly fine with it. And other people who aren't okay with crossfading would be more than happy to find that there's a buttload of CBD inside of their beverages or whatever have you. So on with it, right? It makes just a ton of sense. And the fact that we're seeing, in my opinion, because obviously all opinionated and for this little, kind of tunnel of thought to work. But if this is the outlook and if this is how things could go or should go, like, why is there this infighting between one industry versus another? Like, it makes no sense. I mean, feel free. I mean, I have ideas, but if anybody wants to take a shot at clarifying for me in the audience, please go for it.
I'm personally a big fan of crossfading, Nate.
Well, the alcohol industry is where I would like to see this go as a model. Okay. And what we don't know is the money that's been put into the cannabis industry. Has any of it come from the alcohol industry through some, multiple corporations or LLCs and things like that? We don't understand that yet. Same thing with tobacco. But what they got a taste of was that people wanted this. And they took all sorts of steps to try to rein in the hemp movement, because hemp was just putting out there these products that got people high. And they wanted them, and they were going to get them, and they could get them at the Stop and Rob. They could get them where, the store, wherever they wanted to go. And everyone was cool with that until the big people decided, you're not doing what I told you. Stop this. You're practicing in loopholes. These are all word games. People want these products. And they want them over alcohol. They want them over tobacco. And they want them over some of the more dangerous drugs. Make them available, or the black market, the trap will make them available, or the hemp industry will. The hemp industry is not going away.
Nope.
It's just not going to go away.
Facts.
And if you want this thing to work in any kind of a smooth way, you green light distribution of this stuff to people, and you get the hell out of the way. Because that's what the hemp industry did. They just started running with this, and people were cool with it. They weren't crashing on the streets. The kids weren't jumping off of buildings, and, it's just all this other nonsense it just doesn't hold water anymore. Please stop. And the Republicans, don't be a Dan Lundgren Republican. Get your head out of your ass. This is about personal freedom. Is that what you really believe in? Because the knuckleheads on the left, they just want to control you. Oh, you let you smoke pot, but you got to jump through all of these hoops to be able to do it. My response is, kiss my ass.
I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said it. Democrats only want to control you.
Oh, I'm so fed up with the bureaucracy here in California over trying to make this work. I want to smack some people. I'm just tired of them.
Oh man. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you guys, this is a big deal. And I think on that, we're gonna go into our next commercials. Because I know Stone got to get out of here, but normally we would play 2 commercials, but I found 2 commercials that have been playing on Fox News that star America's greatest president in American history, Mr. Donald J. Trump, advocating for Schedule 3. And so, we hope that we can play these ultimately, full on. But they have been playing on Fox News. We've seen them on Gutfeld, and we have also seen them on Hannity. And so they're on the full Fox lineup. And I have 2 different commercials that we're going to play. You're going to get the audio of them. And so let me know. I can't wait to hear what you guys think about this.
Under President Trump, America is back. Trump's delivered the largest tax cut in history, putting more money in our pockets and restored America's economic dominance. Promises made, promises kept. Now it's time to fulfill another promise from President Trump and reschedule cannabis, which supports over 400,000 jobs and creates billions of dollars in economic growth. Reschedule cannabis and stack another win, Mr. President. America First Agriculture Action Inc. is responsible for the contents of this advertising.
Look at that. All right. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com. And also, please remember to make sure that you're following us on X and Rumble. Because, YouTube, is a little finicky sometimes. And if you ever can't find us here on YouTube, you will be able to find us on X and Rumble every day. And now we're going to go into our second commercial, Schedule 3, that has been playing on Fox News. So here we go, you guys.
Cannabis, which was classified as more dangerous than fentanyl. Trump's action will destroy the cartel's illicit black market, expand medical research, and ensure seniors and veterans safely receive the care they need. Thank President Trump for delivering on another America First promise. And rescheduling cannabis, which was classified.
And this has been our commercial break. I can't, you know what I'm saying? What do y'all have to, any words on this, you guys, before we roll into Stone?
Happy to give him props when he does things that seem to be rationally motivated by getting something over the hump like this and getting through bureaucracies. But I still reserve my right to be critical of bullshit when I hear it. So
that's all good. That's all good. And just for full disclosure, those ads were produced and paid for by America First Agriculture. So that is who is responsible for the content of those ads, you guys. But I think it's great that they're playing them on Fox. I've been having people just wig out like, oh my God, bro, can you believe this? There's cannabis ads with Trump on them on Fox News right now. The world is changing. This is so great. I've gotten so many messages from people in regards with that. It's been very interesting.
So Jason, there is something though that I think you can maybe speak best to, or I invite everybody here with their own experiences, but there is an inbuilt schizophrenia surrounding cannabis in the Republican Party and the right-wing side of the U.S. To be conservative and to be a fan of cannabis is clearly a divided issue.
Well,
what is going to be done to further mitigate this rather than just kick up dirt on what could be argued is already an unmitigated shit show?
Well, so first of all, just so we're all clear, Nate, that sameness also exists in the Democratic Party. There's tons of prohibitionists in the Democratic Party, so it's not just on the Republican side. However, with that said, the thing about it with the Republican side is that what they need to realize and they need to fall in line with is that each of these Republican politicians are only elected by their district, Nate. Okay? There's only one federally held office that is elected by the people of the United States, and that is the presidency. And the fact of the matter is that President Trump won by an overwhelming number of votes in the electoral college system, and even on the popular vote, he won by landslides. And so, hold on. Let me finish.
Okay.
Nate. I'm answering your question. Okay. So all of these people need to understand that part of the Trump agenda is rescheduling cannabis, and ultimately, hopefully, will become descheduling cannabis. And so they need to fall in line with the Trump agenda if they expect to be successful as politicians in their own districts, because otherwise he's going to out them and he's going to find other people to primary them, and they're going to be they're going to be like Tim Walz, you know what I'm saying, washed up. And on that,
well, that all makes sense. So I appreciate that, but there are these fundamentalists, and I don't think that, as appropriate as that logic could be in certain scenarios, I don't think they'll be quelled by that. But
there's always going to be some. There's always going to be some ideologues. There's ideologues on the left. There's ideologues on the right. That's just there. There is going to be that small percentage. That's just reality. But on that, we're going to roll right into Mr. Stone Slade. He is the man out in the great red state of Texas that lives in the bluest lagoon in all of Austin. That's right, with those great eyes and that great hair and a Delta 8 pen in his pocket. It is none other than the man, Mr. Stone Slade.
Oh, man.
Yeah!
Never a dull moment, my friend.
I try, bro.
Right.
I try to keep it interesting for you, Stone.
I think he wants a date.
I don't have a happy story today, so let's.
Oh, don't go crying on us, okay?
Here we go.
No liberal tears on this episode. Only in cans.
All right. So there's stories that stop you cold, not because they're complicated, not because they're shocking in some abstract way, but because they're painfully, stupidly preventable. This is one of those stories. Jennifer Jensen was 36 years old, a mother, sister, a friend, familiar face in Missouri's cannabis industry, where people knew her as kind, generous, and effortlessly supportive. Excuse me. She worked with companies like Grown early on, helped build brands, supported dispensaries, and most importantly, she showed up for people. She showed up for her daughter. On December 27th, in Independence, Missouri, she was killed while riding in the passenger seat of a pickup truck. Her partner was driving. Her 12-year-old daughter was in the back seat. They were leaving a family Christmas gathering. According to police and court records, another driver ran a red light at a high rate of speed and slammed into their vehicle. Investigators later found a beer bottle in the center console of the other truck. 2 hours after the crash, the driver's blood alcohol level was 0.186, more than twice the legal limit. Jennifer Jensen was pronounced dead at the scene. Her daughter was hospitalized with internal injuries and a broken collarbone. Her partner suffered multiple broken bones and severe trauma. This wasn't a freak accident. It wasn't bad luck. This was a drunk driver. And that matters because while Missouri lawmakers are busy attacking hemp-derived THC products, floating bans, tightening rules, and moralizing about public safety, a woman in their own state was killed by a product that enjoys full legal protection, massive political influence, and deep pockets: alcohol. There's a word we don't often hear in these conversations: proportionality. Alcohol is responsible for tens of thousands of deaths every year in the country. Drunk driving kills alone more than 13,000 people annually in the United States. Those aren't edge cases. That's a pattern. Yet alcohol companies remain some of the most powerful donors in state politics. Their products are sold on every corner. Their ads flood sporting events. Their lobbying dollars help shape policy. Meanwhile, cannabis and hemp are still treated like the villain. Missouri lawmakers who claim they're acting in the name of public safety are currently working overtime to restrict or dismantle legal hemp markets, even as regulated cannabis businesses jump through compliance hoops and face constant scrutiny. But the product that killed Jennifer Jensen isn't being questioned. It isn't being targeted. It isn't being framed as a crisis demanding immediate legislative action. That disconnect should really bother people. Jennifer Jensen wasn't reckless. She wasn't endangering anyone. She was riding home with her family on Christmas. She was doing everything right, and the person that killed her was legally allowed to buy, consume, and carry alcohol. The system failed to stop him long before he reached that intersection. Friends and family described Jennifer as someone who never met a stranger. She handed out hygiene kits to unhoused women. She gave people her last dollar. Her coworkers at From the Earth nominated her for Employee of the Month just a couple weeks before her death. She loved her daughter fiercely, and those closest to her say that the two were inseparable. Now her family is left with grief, medical bills, funeral costs, and a little girl who lost their mother because someone chose to drive drunk. A GoFundMe has been set up for Jennifer's family. Has already surpassed the original goal of $12,000, raising more than $28,000 to help cover expenses and support her daughter's recovery. That support matters. It's tangible. if it's something people can do right now to help ease some of the damage left behind. But it shouldn't stop there. If lawmakers are serious about public safety, which most times they're not, they need to stop pretending cannabis is the threat while quietly cashing checks from industries that actually leave bodies behind. This isn't about defending cannabis. It's about telling the truth. Jennifer Jansen didn't die because of weed. She died because alcohol is normalized, protected, and politically convenient. And until we're honest about that, more families are going to go through and pay the same price. I'm Stone Slade with the High at 9 News.
This is a tough story, Stone.
It is.
This is a tough story. This is a senseless death that shouldn't have happened in any way whatsoever. And individuals' own selfishness and lack of community is what has led to this tragedy. And my heart goes out to the family of this young woman and her kids. And this is just a sad story. Like it's just, you know, you definitely peed in my Cheerios today, Stone.
I'm sorry about it. And you know, click on the OG article there. If you can give to the GoFundMe, and
yeah,
you know, everything helps.
Most definitely.
When it comes to alcohol, it's about personal responsibility, which it should be. You get behind the wheel of a car and you hurt somebody, and the fault lies with you. You know, no one really feels sorry for you. And if you do something like this, sympathy, it's in the dictionary between shit and syphilis. You should go to jail, and probably for a long time. Okay. But the government doesn't trust us to make a personal, responsible choice to use cannabis. It's like, oh my God, you're going to lose your mind. Problem is that you cannot find 13,000 dead human beings from cannabis in the entire planet every year. Just can't. And so they make these false comparisons, and these logical fallacies are thrown at us right and left. It just, a story from the turn of the last century, I mean, the 20th century, was that this was bad because it's associated with racial groups we don't like, and that dug into our DNA, and it just doesn't seem to want to go away. Acts don't move this emotional truth for people, and it's just getting so old now. I've had to be involved in cases where people driving on the road killed people, and it's horrific. It's tragic. You go depose these people's families, and you see how it just turned everybody's life upside down. Okay. But the same when someone gets popped for smoking weed or for having weed and they go to jail, that turns their world upside down, and it doesn't accomplish shit. It's very frustrating to keep having to deal with the hypocrisy involved in all this. And it's clear it's money and power that's involved. And if you can't see this, I don't know what Stevie Wonder can see this without any question. And these lawmakers still fight about stuff that we go, you know, we see it with our own eyes. Don't tell me what I just saw is not what I saw.
Yep.
That's going on a lot right now. People are just not having it like they used to.
Oh, they're definitely not. They're definitely not, because social media is so prevalent, and people are seeing things that a lot of people want to cover up. You know.
Well, it just points out how full of shit most people are. When you confront them with facts, they just don't know what they fall right into. Well, I'm on the whatever my party or tribe's train is. I'm on it, and don't give me facts because I don't want to hear that. Well, you know, I'm sorry. What are you, 12? You know, where you got to go to your room without dinner? Come on, you're an adult. Critically think. I really get irritated at people who don't critically think. You got facts to support your position. Let's talk about it all day long, dude. Don't pull something out of your ass and be a Dan Lundgren Republican again. No, we don't buy that anymore. Stop it.
Yep. Exactly right. Man, oh man. Any thoughts on this, Nate, before we move on?
No, thanks, Stone, for bringing it to mine and everyone's attention.
Yeah.
Might have overlooked her story and name otherwise, and it's a damn shame. And, you know, it sucks, but it's appropriate to share in the suck. So, you know, that's, you know, all to her and her family.
Yeah. God bless her and her family.
Goes to jail.
Yeah.
for a long time.
Long time. Yeah. Long time.
And when he bends over to pick up his soap, he finds out where he is.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. Look at that part. I'm glad you said it and not me, Dale. And on that, we are going to roll into our...
I can tell you.
I know.
It don't bother me to tell you.
And he definitely didn't...
Somebody if you ain't careful.
Yeah, and you definitely didn't go to prison for 5 days. That's for sure, huh, Dale?
Oh.
And on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Yes, and
at the mercy of the rest of the world.
And we are back, you guys, and we are going to roll right into Mr. Nate Winokur. Nate was a lab owner who was unjustly charged by the DCC and forced to turn over his license to them because they are so corrupt over there. And now he focuses on educating the public on all the nuances of testing in his new educational platform called Teaching Bud that you can find everywhere on YouTube and other channels where it's streaming at. It is none other than the educator himself, Mr. Nate Winokur.
Thank you so much for the introduction, my friend. And today's story comes out of the United Kingdom. I always like to highlight the progress from around the planet as best as I can. And today's is specific to actually being able to spell out laws to the police and our friends across the big proverbial pond. So it is. UK policing body publishes first official guidance on medical cannabis. Over 7 years after medical cannabis was legalized in the UK, the National Police Chiefs Council has approved the first official guidance for medical cannabis. The guidance, titled Medical Cannabis and the Police Guidance for Officers and Staff, critically calls for officers in England and Wales to adopt a patients first until proven otherwise philosophy when handling encounters involving prescribed medical cannabis. While its authors readily admit this is not a complete answer, it marks a critical first step, openly recognizing that there are glaring knowledge and education gaps within law enforcement. That only happens in the UK, huh? And extending a welcome olive branch to patients and industry to work towards a standardized approach. Go figure. This is why I like to focus and bring this stuff to light. Is I don't mean to create too much of a display of the disparity, but this is truly what it's like to be able to approach a policy and something that could have been previously demonized. This is how you do it well. And even this is happening in slow motion. So keeping that in mind, Richard List, QPM, a retired detective chief superintendent and head of drug squad who authored the guidance, told Business of Cannabis, in a liberal democracy, if you're a patient and you've had a controlled drug that's legitimately prescribed by a doctor, you shouldn't have to worry about any interference from the police. According to data from UK medical cannabis clinic Alternaleaf, which surveyed 2,000 of its patients, almost 1 in 5 have been challenged by police about their medication. Separate research from the clinic found that 30% of patients experience anxiety about using their medicine in public, with most of that fear stemming from potential police encounters, a figure List said surprised him when he first saw it. You only need glance at patient forums like r/UK medical cannabis on Reddit to understand why such anxiety exists in the patient population when it comes to dealing with law enforcement. Repeated stories and calls for advice from the community tell of officers rejecting claims that medical cannabis is a thing, even when presented with prescription documentation, falsely stating that it is always illegal and even laughing at attempts to justify their medication. Yeah, makes me angry too. These encounters, while not experienced by every patient, point to officers who either misunderstand what's legal or who don't know medical cannabis is legal at all. This too often results in patients spending time in jail cells, having their medication confiscated, and having their jobs or rental contracts jeopardized. However, it is crucial to note that the majority of such cases are not the result of bad policing, but simply a severe lack of training and education, even at higher levels. List, who led Thames Valley Police Intelligence and Specialist Operations Command for years, explained that even he was previously in the dark about medical cannabis. Like that proper pronunciation of Thames? Yeah, it's didn't go to school for nothing. I didn't know anything about medical cannabis, he says. I dealt with a lot of illicit cannabis, but medicinal cannabis was completely different to me. I was so naive about it. I thought that it would be quite a sterile green pill or something like that. So it was a complete eye-opener to me. End quote. Most of these officers on the street have got less than 2 years service, and if they're not necessarily being trained, if this isn't part of the curriculum, and bear in mind that curriculum has quite a lot to cover, we're not going to be able to influence the hearts and minds to think medical cannabis is something very, very different from cannabis, he adds. Alex Frazier from Patient Protect, an organization that supports patients facing discrimination. It's just now occurring to me, Jason, that I should have had you do the British voices.
It's all right.
Says the guy, it's all good, man. It's, 2020 hindsight, right?
Yeah.
Alex Frazier from Patient Project, an organization that supports patient facing discrimination, says the guidance represents a turning point. Quote, it's enormously reassuring to see this publication from the APCDLO, the first public recognition of medical cannabis patients from a UK policing body. At Patient Protect, we support patients who have had problematic, often discriminatory interactions with police and other authorities. Documents like this are enormously helpful, serving to provide much needed clarity and advice for police officers and empowering patients to feel safe. So it says, why now? This knowledge gap is also a key part of how this new guidance came about and why it has taken more than a decade to establish. After retiring from the police in 2021, Liz took a part-time job position as controlled drug liaison officer. He told Business of Cannabis that medical cannabis advocates first caught his attention during the Association of Police Controlled Drug Liaisons Officers annual conference. Intrigued, he began examining what guidance existed for police forces. The National Police Chiefs Council had some draft guidance. This was outdated, inaccurate, and frankly not fit for purpose, he explained. Healthcare partners are obviously critical within the whole cannabis arrangement, much more important than the police. Recognizing this gap, Liz decided the APCDLO would write their own guidance. Over the next few months, he consulted extensively with healthcare partners, private clinics, and government agencies to produce a document that was then submitted to the MPCC for approval. Upon consulting with companies like Relief and Alternaleaf, we raised some major issues with the current policy and helped shape new guidelines. I wish I'd have consulted with them before. It's going to need another version at some time in the future, undoubtedly, he admits. But emphasis is that this is a crucial first step with a view which has been widely echoed throughout the industry. Generally speaking, the response has been very good because generally what they'll say is we haven't got knowledge and we haven't got guidance, which at least now there is some available. Nabila Shanduri, a medical director of the UK's leading online medical cannabis clinic, Alternaleaf, said, this new guidance is a step in the right direction. We know many police officers are still not aware that medical cannabis is legal, so this guidance must be backed up by training. In November 2024, these initial guidelines were approved by the MPCC, meaning that they are now official policy for all 43 police forces in England and Wales, rather than merely advisory. I have to admit, this is a bit of a journey for me. It's not something that's centrally directed by the police, albeit is now agreed by the MPCC, so is official police policy. Very interesting and a very good way of looking at it. And information is so important. Even here in my time working in the cannabis industry in California, I remember my most recent friend to have gotten arrested because he had a version of hash on him, a version of a dabbable. And police asked him, and he assumed because everything was nice and legal, he even worked for a medical cannabis, or not medical cannabis. He even worked for a cannabis laboratory, which now that I think of the year, I apologize, was a medical cannabis associated practice. That was something that he was more than happy to share with the officer. And the officer, on learning that he had hash, treated it with this draconian law, which basically said that hash was the equivalent of meth and an instant felony, and dragged my friend to the police station and actually got educated by the other officers, some of the younger guys laughing, saying, no, this is something completely normal now. And people actually purchase and smoke hash regularly, and it's not something to be looked at as if it's some kind of terrible synthesized and further demonized product than even cannabis itself. That friend was held in the police station for a couple of hours and let go. It was right before one of the Emerald Cups, and I remember this guy was late as a result of all of that fun activity. So there's stories, and I'm sure for enough old schoolers, police contact over and over again, hopefully for these kind of policies to roll in. My belief and hope is ultimately that these kinds of stories where police contact was had and that it was any kind of an experience are going to become more and more of a classical tale, and something we see happening less and less as more and more policies worldwide are rolled out and cannabis is more normalized. So that's my 2 cents on the subject. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Dale, for having me here on the show with you guys. Thank you for watching. Back to you.
Oh, man. UK. It's going down over there, Dale. What do you think about all this, Dale?
Well, my first thought was 8 years to come up with some reasonable rules to follow for cops.
I mean, but it's the
Seems
UK.
like
It's the UK. They do things a lot slower over there. You know, they're too busy having tea time and crumpets and shit.
I get it. The other thing that came to my mind was that when you look at the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for substance abuse disorders, and you point out what part of those findings are based upon the prohibition of the plant as opposed to actually using the plant. That's where this all begins to fall apart. Because this woman was talking about, I get so anxious when I think about using this stuff out because I'm going to run to a cop. That sort of, anxiety is a mental illness, okay? And we all have it sometimes, but if you can't control it, that contributes towards a finding that you may have a substance abuse disorder if it causes you to have anxiety. It's not the plant giving her anxiety. It's the thought she's going to run to a cop, and the cop's going to have his head up his ass and drag her to jail and be told by his other fellow cops that, what are you doing? You can't do this anymore. And this woman's now been taken to jail, and they're all messed up. You try to talk to people who think they understand about substance abuse, about the impact of our laws on how you diagnose it. They just don't want to hear it, okay? If you take heroin and you give it to people and you find out they can't meet their responsibilities because the drug makes them so messed up they can't find their ass with both hands, and you say you're addicted to heroin, it's because heroin does that to you. Okay? But when you smoke pot and you get arrested and you can't meet your responsibilities because you're in jail, okay, that's not cannabis substance abuse disorder. That's a stupid, idiotic legal system. Okay? And we still suffer from that. And it's not that difficult to understand, but even in the medical community, to get them to take out the problems with humans and the prohibition as opposed to the problems humans have with using the substance, that's where I think we should be looking at the impacts of these substances on society. Not are we arresting you, but what's the drug actually doing? Because if the drug ain't causing problems in society, why in the hell are we still arresting people for it? They don't have a good answer for that.
No, they don't. And shout out to 21X Metal 12 who says UK medical patient here taking way too long for any change. And I totally agree with that. I mean, you know, the industry is evolving at such a rapid pace, and they're almost still living in the dark ages, like they're living in castles over there. You know what I'm saying?
I'm glad we were able to help rep for how you guys are doing it over there in the UK. Way better here than somebody in California who's, you know, I guess 2026. We've been repping this message now, Jason, Dale, for 30 years this year.
Yeah.
And look at, you know, how forward and backwards and how elastic this all feels, rather than at certain times we got really excited and it started to seem like a linear path, but nope.
Man, that's so crazy.
You know, it's really inspiring to see things. And I remember, and obviously having not lived it and simply been familiar with an article that was written in the last 24 hours, I don't know the struggles as well as you ever would when you say it's so long. But I can see here that this was a skip of 7 years that should have happened before. And man, I mean, I'm hoping that the next generation has a chance to simply say, really, you guys had to deal with that? And we get to say, yeah, you know, I mean, we'd like to think in some ways we did it for you, you know?
Yep.
And, you know, helped with freedom, helped with careers, helped with all of these things that we decided to dedicate our life to. And, you know, here we are. It's just such a mishmash of, you know, life and feelings and what we've all strived for. And I mean, what else can you say about it? It's, you know, this is us. And that's really cool to see that people in the UK can experience a version of things moving forward. And man, are we wishing we did it like you. You know, it's just, you know, 30 years of hell.
And the thing about it too, you know, the king currently has a form of cancer currently. And so I'm hopeful that he's able to get some relief from cannabis, which may possibly expedite, you know, advancement of cannabis and loosening of cannabis laws there in the UK. So we are hopeful in that aspect, and we are going to keep on chugging along, and we're going to cross back over the pond now to my final story out in the great red state of Florida, one of Dale's favorite other states. Yep, that's right. And we were talking about the smell of cannabis earlier, Nate. Do you remember all of this? Oh, hold on one second. 21X Metal 12 also says it's a fact that British Medical Association guys want to recognize it as medicine, and why it's only via private clinic to obtain cannabis. Great feedback from across the pond. Thanks so much for your comments.
I had a feeling about that, not being intimately familiar with the structure of, but from the stories I've read and seeing the same names pop up, it seems to be overly controlled, which isn't awesome. However, I see things typically that are allowed at a certain point going through a period of control and demonization, at least from my seat here in California. And I apologize for being somewhat jaded in this statement, but it feels to me like part of the process that certain people jump in and try to control it before they realize they can't. And eventually you see laws start to relax in ways where industry and enjoyment can long-term pop up. At least that's the hope.
Well, time will tell. And on that, we're going to roll right into Florida, because the Florida adult use marijuana legalization stinks. A state attorney general tells the Supreme Court, you guys. Oh, man, Nate. A ban on public cannabis use in a proposed adult use legalization measure in Florida is misleading because citizens might still smell it. the state attorney general recently claimed. A marijuana multi-state operator-backed push to legalize adult-use cannabis in Florida is attempting to mislead voters around, among other things, cannabis smell, the state attorney general claimed. Attorney General James Upmeyer's accusation, made in a state Supreme Court filing and supported by key business groups, including the State Chamber of Commerce, is the latest in a long string of efforts to thwart legalizing adult use cannabis in the country's biggest medical-only market. And it comes amid an ongoing challenge to signatures already collected by legalization campaign Smart and Safe Florida, which is primarily bankrolled by Tallahassee-based MSO Trulieve Cannabis Corp. In a subsequent headline that was released previously, they say, the Florida adult use marijuana legalization campaign misleads around cannabis smell, an AG claims. And with more than $1.8 billion in medical cannabis sales, Florida is poised to become one of the biggest adult use markets in the country after legalization. Despite support from President Donald J. Trump, the administration of Governor Ron DeSantis seems determined to stop it. And according to the Tampa Bay Times, Upmeyer, a former chief of staff to DeSantis who opposed the 2024 legalization effort, called the Smart and Safe campaign fatally flawed and unconstitutional, as well as misleading. In addition to claims that the amendment violates state law limiting constitutional amendments scope, Upmeyer paid particular attention to cannabis smell and claimed that while the Smart and Safe Amendment prohibits cannabis use in public, there's no guarantee that Floridians won't smell marijuana. In a quote, the ballot summary would lead voters to believe that voting yes would ensure there is no marijuana or its smell in public, while the actual amendment delivers no such thing, the Attorney General said in filings according to the Times. Well, I would push back and say just because it's illegal doesn't mean it's not going to be in the smell either. So, you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense, your argument, buddy. But nonetheless, there's another quote. The in-public summary language would likewise deceive Florida parents into thinking this initiative will prohibit marijuana smoking near their children in hotels, restaurants, sports venues, and other areas open to the general public. The initiative provides no such protection. Smart and Safe's response is due in court on January 12th, and there was one other past headline that was referenced in this article, where they say the headline reads, will Florida legalize adult use marijuana in 2026? In the statement to the Times, the campaign pointed out that a similar effort from DeSantis administration to defeat the 2024 campaign at the state Supreme Court failed. And in a quote, 5.9 million voters approved of the measure in 2024, and over a million Florida voters have signed petitions to put the current language on the ballot. We hope their voices won't be ignored, the statement read. And to pass a constitutional amendment in Florida, a 60% approval is required, and Trulieve backed Amendment 2 failed in November 2024, despite more than $150 million wasted in the campaign spending and an endorsement from Donald J. Trump, the then Republican presidential nominee. And I'm the one that put in the word wasted. Trulieve CEO Kim Rivers is credited with convincing Trump to issue the historic December 18th executive order downgrading cannabis to a Schedule III drug, and I would totally disagree with that, although she did put a majority of the money to push that narrative, but nonetheless. However, there are more complications this time around at the state level in Florida. In a separate court case, Smart and Safe is fighting state elections officials over the decision to invalidate tens of thousands of signatures. And Smart and Safe must submit at least 880,062 valid signatures by February 1st. The campaign has submitted just over 675,000 valid signatures to date, according to the state elections website, and Trulieve has contributed at least $25 million to the campaign to date, according to the campaign finance records, you guys. Well, look at that. That's a big drop in numbers from this time to last time. 25, only putting 25 million as opposed to 150 million on the last time. Maybe they're going to save a majority of their spend for once it qualifies for the ballot, possibly. Maybe that's why they haven't spent so much on this yet. But I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. The smell. The Attorney General's worried about the smell of cannabis, you guys. But meanwhile, there's no distinction between the smell of medical cannabis and regular cannabis. So
And
what's
there's a lot
the big
of
deal?
things that you'll smell walking down the street that you'll find you wish you were smelling cannabis instead. So, yeah, this overall doesn't make any sense to me. It's just one more attempt at demonizing cannabis. Why? I mean, I'm curious, I guess, from this point of view, how, I mean, knowing, again, I call it an inbuilt schizophrenia from earlier. I want to know how this is mitigated, because this is, I mean, clearly two different sides of spectrum, the same general group with two vastly different messages. I can tell you with any sense of surety that the smell of cannabis can be controlled, and that if people are simply using that as a dog whistle, they may as well just be saying that, oh, the children. But again, if you walk down the street, any given city block in New York, you will smell 50 things. One of those things will happen to be cannabis. So at any point, do you just stop and point out 2% of the smells that you just encountered and go, that's it, that's the one that I hate? Like, where does the sense come from? And that's what I almost want to throw back at you, Jason. Like, where does that sense come from? You're pro-cannabis, but you're pro-conservative action. It's banning cannabis or demonizing it seems about as conservative as anything we'll talk about on this show. So
the reality of it, bro, is that these people are just basic prohibitionists that have been caught up in the psyop of what reefer madness is known as. And it's the same thing that we see with the purple and blue haired liberals that want to go and do crazy things that a lot of us don't necessarily agree with and whatnot. And it's a lot of these people, they fall under the psyop and they get under this whimsical spell. And when people need to focus on freedom and liberty and allowing people the freedom to choose what they want to be able to consume, and especially the fact that they probably need to go back and realize that man did not create cannabis. God created cannabis, and therefore you can't say that cannabis is bad and then at the same time say everything with God is good, because that's a contradictory statement.
All malum prohibitum. Okay, there's nothing about this that is morally corrupt. Society is trying to say we're going to draw a line here, and when most people don't agree with the line, it's useless to pass it. That's part of the problem. It gets tied up in personal freedom here. Okay, and when you're outside doing something and you might subject the public to what you're doing, now society at least has a right to ask, can we mitigate this at all? Okay, and this sounds like this is grounds for Karens and Kevins with a badge go out there.
Kevins
want to just say, I told you not to do this. By God, I'm going to do something to you, rather than recognizing that a certain percentage of people want to do something. I don't care how many cops you got. You can't stop them. What do we do with that particular reality? And it also reminds me that when I was transferred from prison to halfway house, it was in the Tenderloin of San Francisco. And I come up from the subway, and as soon as I get up to the street level, the smell was unbelievable. People taking shit in the street, people pissing in the street, crap everywhere, fentanyl addicts. It's crazy. And yet, we don't want to smell weed. I don't want to smell people's shit either. Okay, so what do we do about that? We're going to pass a law. Oh, you're not supposed to shit in the street. Okay, are you going to enforce it?
No.
Well, apparently not.
They're not doing that.
This whole thing is stupid. You cannot explain it to a 5-year-old and get him to understand it, because it doesn't make sense.
You're so right about that, Dale. So right. And on that, I guess we just have to make smells great again. You know what I'm saying? That's all I know. You know what I'm saying?
Unless you're in an elevator, yeah.
Yeah,
right then, no.
Fair enough. And on that, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on over here, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day, and thank you to Cloud Media Partners Elias and Gabriel. There's somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show, patented and trademarked.